All right, you can take your Bibles and go to Exodus chapter 13, where we will continue our study of Moses and the Exodus. And this evening, what we're going to be looking at is the children of Israel leaving the land of captivity, the land of bondage. In Exodus 13, right before they leave, in verse 17 it says, "And when it came to pass, when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God led them not through the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest peradventure the people repent when they see war, and they return to Egypt. But God led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea. And the children of Israel went up, harnessed out of the land of Egypt." So I'll show you this because when you see this on the map, it really strikes you the difference in what they could have done in their journey and what they did. So this over here is Egypt. This is Egypt. Over here is the Sinai Desert, and up in here is Canaan. They are leaving from here, the city of Ramses in Egypt. Where they are headed for is here, Canaan. The way that the most direct route, the way that they could have gone, would be the way of the land of the Philistines, which is right along that coast there. But God said if I let them do that, they're going to come across places where they're going to fight against them, and they're going to turn around and go back to Egypt. They're not going to have it. And so instead what they do is they go all the way down here and up. And then that would be bad enough, right? But then when they get there, they're afraid to go in, so they go back down here and they wander around for 40 years and then go in. So this would be a distance of about 160 miles, probably a little, even saying that because they have, people of all ages and children and so on, even if we say they're only traveling at 10 miles a day, which would be not at all a push, that would be just a little over 2 weeks. You want to cut that in half, 5 miles a day, about a month. Instead, 40 years it takes to get there because of fear. Because of fear. Because of their fear, it takes that much longer to get there. That would have been a lot of time of not eating manna. That would have been a lot of time of being able to enjoy that land and all the resources that were there, but they were afraid. So God said that he won't take them that way, but instead that long way around. Verse 19, "And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him." Isn't that cool? Joseph. Joseph who had come there and had done so much for Israel, his family, and eventually the nation, and had done so much for Egypt. But he didn't leave his bones there in Egypt. They took them to that promised land so that Joseph wouldn't spend all of his rest of the time there. "For he had straitly sworn, Joseph, the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones away hence with you." Everything that happened, God told them ahead of time. Everything that's happened to Israel, God's told them ahead of time. He told Abraham that all this stuff was going to happen. He told Abraham that they'd end up in Egypt. He told Abraham that they'd end up, being in captivity, and that they'd end up being let out of there, and they'd come back to the land. All this stuff was told them ahead of time. Verse 20, "And they took their journey from Succoth and encamped in Etham in the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud to lead the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people. Imagine that. There you are. And they estimate that it could be as many as 2.5 million people that were in Israel at the time they came out. It says there were 600,000 plus women and children. So that's where they come up with, could be as high as 2.5 million. And that entire time that they're traveling, the entire time that they're in the wilderness and wandering until they get to the promised land, all day long there is a pillar of a cloud that goes before them by day to lead the way. And at night, it's a pillar of fire, so they can have light and so they can see as they're being led. I'm thinking if I constantly had the presence of God represented in front of me by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, I would feel pretty confident that God was with me and I didn't have to worry about stuff. And you sort of think they should, but boy, that's sadly not the case. Chapter 14. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they turn in a camp before Pihahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-zephon. Before it ye shall encamp by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, They are entangled in the land, the wilderness hath shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them. And I will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all his host, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled. And the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people. And they said, Why have ye done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us? Why did you let them go? Why did you let them go? Don't you realize we've just lost our major labor force? There were more of them than us. They were doing all the work. They were making the bricks. They were building the pyramids. They were doing all this stuff. And you've let them go, and now we don't have anybody to do this work. We don't have anybody to be servants in our houses, and so on and so forth. Verse 6. And he, Pharaoh, made ready his chariot and took his people with him. And he took 600 chosen chariots, and all the chariots of Egypt, and captains over every one of them. He took all the chariots of Egypt and 600 chosen ones. These were the finest, He had all the infantry, but boy, leading the way was his best chariots, the strongest ones, the biggest ones. And the Lord hardened, verse 8, the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went out with a high hand. But the Egyptians pursued them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, and his horsemen, and his army. Not only the infantry, the cavalry. The cavalry is the mechanized troops now. Is that what it is? Yes. So you had the cavalry and then the infantry. You had, the guys just on foot. Everybody went out after them. And they overtook them encamping by the sea, besides Pihahiroth, before Baal-zephon. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they had wished they brought another pair of pants. They were sore afraid. They were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, Because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? What, there weren't enough graves back in Egypt? You brought us out here to die? Why did you do this to us? That's what they're saying to Moses. Why did you do this to us? Aren't these the same people that cried unto God and said, do something, send somebody? Life is miserable here. We're having to be slaves in a hard bondage. But they got a different tune now. Verse 12. Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? Didn't we tell you? No, we don't want to go. Just let us alone. You know, it's not so bad being a slave. For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than we should die in the wilderness. There again, the pillar of cloud by day, the pillar of fire by night. They've already seen God do all these things to get them released in the first place. They've seen all those 10 plagues. They've seen all the stuff, how God protected them when everybody else's kid, firstborn child, died. They've seen God do all this, and yet when they turn around and they see that army bearing down on them, they freak out. They just freak out, and they say to Moses, why'd you do this to us? We're just going to die now in the wilderness. Verse 13. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. Wow, that's quite a statement. You know, powerful words from a powerful leader. Moses is not freaked out. Everybody else might have been freaked out, but not Moses. Moses knows that God will take care of them. He just trusts God. And he tells them to not be afraid, that God will take care of them, and these Egyptians that are after them will be done away with. Verse 14. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. The Lord will fight for you, and that'll shut you up. Verse 15. And the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward. You know, the children of Israel crying unto the Lord, Lord, do something. You know, we're going to die. And God says, why even talking to me? You already know what you're supposed to do. I told you just move. Go that direction. Keep going. Keep going. Just keep walking. Now what's in front of them? The sea. Verse 16. But lift thou up thy rod, and stretch out thine hand over the sea, and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. God says, you go forward, but before you do, take your rod and stick your hand out over that sea, and I'm going to divide it, and this whole nation of people is going to walk right through the middle of the waters on dry ground. It's going to be a wall of water on either side of them, and they're going to walk right through the middle of it on dry ground. Verse 17. And behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. And I will get me honor upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, upon his chariots and upon his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. So the angel that was leading, and this pillar goes from leading them, from being behind, in front of them, to behind them, to guard them, to protect them from that oncoming Egyptian army, and to block them from getting there and block their view. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, verse 20, and it was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near the other all the night. So the Israelites could see, for them it was a light that they could see where they were going as they went through the middle of the sea. And for the Egyptians, it was a cover of darkness, so they couldn't see their hand in front of their face to know where they were going. Verse 21. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. So he stretches it out, and God sends a winds that divide the waters, so that it's just this wall on either side. Verse 22. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea, in the middle of it, upon the dry ground. There wasn't water around them. They weren't fighting in the water and all this other nonsense. And the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all of Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and its horsemen. They thought, great, we'll just go right in after them. And so they go right into the middle of the sea also. And you get the whole army in pursuit of them, also right there in that big tunnel on the dry ground with water on either side of them. But it's not going to work out quite so well for them. Verse 24. And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked upon the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drave them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. Don't you love that? He just loosens up the axle nuts on the wheels of the chariots, and there they are, the wheels falling off as they're trying to go through, and now it's just the horse dragging this chariot without wheels to slow them down. They must have been getting too close to them, so God just slows them down a bit. Verse 26. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. After all of Israel's made it safe through to the other side, and there's the Egyptians still in the middle of that sea, God says, stretch out your hand again, and those waters are going to come right back crashing in on them. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared. And the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. Not a single one escaped. Those Egyptians that they had seen, they would see no more forever. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw the great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians. And the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. For a few days. God just does this incredible miracle to get his people to safety, to get them out of that land of bondage, and then to bring them safely through to the other side of the sea. And God was willing and able to take care of them. There was never a problem with God. There was never a problem with his ability or his willingness. The only problem that Israel ever had was with their own believing. And that's what runs them into trouble again and again and again. This day they believed him. This day they saw what he did, and they were good for literally a few days. We'll see that next time. But, God is that same God for us. He is that same God that will take care of us, that will do whatever he needs to do. God will always make a way where there is no way. And he will move heaven and earth to take care of his people. You are his children. And when we come to him and trust him the way Moses did, then God will always come through. We'll read a few verses of the next chapter. Chapter 15. Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord, and spake, saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and song, and he is become my salvation. He is my God, and I will prepare him an habitation, my father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a man of war, the Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his host hath he cast into the sea. His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them, they sank into the bottom as a stone. Thy right hand, O Lord, is become glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Lord, hath dashed in pieces the enemy. And in the greatness of thy excellency thou hast overthrown them that rose up against thee. Thou sentest forth thy wrath, which consumed them as stubble. And with the blast of thy nostrils the waters were gathered together. The flood stood upright as a heap, and the depths were congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied upon them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them. Thou didst blow with thy wind, the sea covereth them. They sank as lead in the mighty waters. Who is like unto thee, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like thee, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders? And it goes on. This song that Moses sang, and a lot of it is also repeated in some of the Psalms, quoted in some of the Psalms. And this is just Moses and the children of Israel expressing their thankfulness and their praises unto God. You know, that's what God would have us to do, to remember his works, to recognize what he's done in our lives, and to sort of daily take stock of the things that God has done, and to just repeat it to ourselves, to think about those things, to focus on those things where God has come through for us. And as we do such, then we're even more confident the next time for God to do more. Okay.